Thank you for having courage to do this. And it's not about doing it perfectly. So what do you think would be the most important learning for you through this process?
Well, how to make the interview and the connection with the client, probably. Because I know that as a coach, I shouldn't put ideas in their brain, but just ask and let them figure stuff out from different perspectives and think about their, for example, with a career change, for example, where they want to go, why they want to change careers, where they would like to see themselves in a few years or something like this. So how to properly do it. Yeah.
Okay.
See how it really works, the real coaching interview.
Well, that's going to be maybe a bit stressful, but in a good way, because here I'm here to support you. So there's no stakes, and it's not about helping me achieve something, but to learn. So even if I don't achieve anything in this conversation, in this particular coaching conversation, it's still going to be useful learning for you and for other people. So thank you, Katerina, for being willing to do this. So I'm ready. So actually, I prepared several requests I can talk about. So let's start with this one. I'm recently switched to companies, and I want to see how I can improve the lateral relationships. So there's going to be a lot of new stakeholders for me. And I seem to have quite a good relationship with my managers from the get-go, but I don't really know who are going to be my peers and how can I contribute to their success and so on. So what are their objectives and so on. So I want some help with that.
Okay, and can you talk to your manager about it? Can he, for example, introduce you to your colleagues or meet with you and them together?
So just right away, you start with advice, right? Did you notice that?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I think that that's one of the troubles that it's gonna be for me.
So why do you think you started with advice?
It comes to mind the first thing. So I should probably more ask what are you what are you afraid of with meeting the new peers or something like this? Or
well, it's not about the specific question that you ask, but it's interesting that, like, in order to coach people, we need to have very clear intention, because coaching does not come naturally for us. It's something that I didn't see anyone who does it naturally by default. So it's something that we need to specifically put some attention into doing this. And like there might be certain kind of ritual, a certain preparation for people to start really doing this. And one of the things that you need to do throughout the process is to be aware of what specifically am I saying and what is my intention. Because, for example, if you started with can a manager introduce you to these people, of course it could be a useful suggestion, but it's not going to be a coaching. And even if you have this suggestion, you can leave it for the ending of this conversation. Imagine if I kind of have certain ideas, but you have another one. So at the end of the conversation, you can take your coaching hat off and also provide advice. But for the beginning, start with intention of not advising, but thinking how you can increase my awareness of what I really want to achieve and what are the steps I can take to do so.
Oh yeah, I got it. Yeah, so get towards that slowly, but by you realizing that, not me telling you. Yeah, I know. Sorry.
And one of the ways just to slow down, start with slowing down. What I tried to do in the beginning of this event, just to help you all slow down to breathe slowly and be aware of what's happening, what's going through your mind, because this is also very important in order to coach.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you will be working in a new company with a new group of people. How many people are you gonna work with?
If you mean the peers that I mentioned, I don't really know how many peers and whom I can consider peers, because it's not necessarily the people who will report to my manager, but broadly kind of the managerial folk around there. So it's not necessarily kind of people who report to my direct manager, but more broadly like people on a similar level, kind of team leads, managers, and so on.
And what is your worry about working relationships?
I guess maybe worry not proper word, but what I'm thinking is that I can overlook important interests, and I can overlook important how should I put it? Important. So I started with talking people basically to my manager and my skip level manager about what's needed and how I can contribute. But naturally, they don't know everything. So if I don't talk to everybody not everybody, but to a lot of people on different levels, I may be working with only one point of view from above. And I may overlook some issues or problems or opportunities where my skill set can be leveraged. So I'm worried that, well, two things. First, that I don't establish good relationships. Meaning that for me, it's important just to have good relationships with people. I'm even though I'm an introvert, I'm a people person. So that's one. And another thing is that I really want to be helpful. And in order to be helpful, I would need to understand kind of a list of priorities of the challenges that people face, kind of what's going to be the low-hanging fruit with which I can help.
And well, what are, for example, the values or the things that you need from your peers or you like in other people to work with or from your peers?
What values I like? Well, probably like everybody, I like people like myself. What values I like? I like people who like people. So I like people who really care and want to create good working experience for their teams. So it's important for me to kind of eliminate as much stressors in my team and also help other managers do so for their teams respectively as well.
So people who cooperate, for example, and who like to have fun after work as well, of course, or not just within the
not necessarily
working environment.
Not necessarily that way. It's more about, well, kind of people who adopt more coaching approach rather than directive approach.
So who like to, for example, continue some development, personal development and career development, and some other other interests, and trying to I don't know how to say it in English, sorry. Yeah, try I don't know how to say it, sorry.
Let's park it here.
Yeah, sorry. I lost my train of thoughts.
So what do you think about about doing coaching? How well it worked?
Right now, horrible, to be honest.
Let's refocus in a different way. So what do you think worked well?
I think that it was good that I started you talking, that I asked you some questions and you were thinking about the answers and talking more about it, and if you're going into a new team or new company, usually the worries are how you get well with the people. So we were talking about your worries, why you are afraid of it or nervous about it. But then we didn't go deeper, or I didn't coach you towards some positive success, or I don't know how to say.
That's fine, because you have only 5 minutes or so. So the question to all the audience: could you please write in the chat what one things that you noticed that Katarzyna did well? And I will share my thoughts as well. Didn't interrupt. Yeah. I also felt that there is a good listening, so you didn't really interrupt me. What else do you notice? And while you're thinking, I turn on the dashboard once again, because I want to illustrate one point. Yeah, so I see about the open questions. Yeah. I also noticed that there were really good open questions. So let's just to break down this conversation a bit. So basically, I started with some goal that I have. Actually, it was not really a specific goal. I described the situation. So there is some vague vision of what I want.
Yeah, I just realized that I could have asked you, like, for the best case scenario, what you would like to get from the new work experience or new working relationships.
Yeah. So one of the things that we need to do is to make this thing more precise. I don't know, let's make it a star. So basically, first step usually is to clarify what the real goal is, what the real objective is. So what do you think, Katarzyna, what kind of question you could have asked to achieve that?
Yeah, something similar to that. Well, for example, what ideal scenario or ideal goal would be when entering the new relationships and making correlations and working relationships with them. Just the best case scenario, and what he would like to achieve, or yeah, something like this.
Yeah, that's a good question to ask. So basically, by this you can clarify and just really shape this amorphous thing into some goal. And I brought up the real request, so I don't know what the goal is. So basically, we can continue, but just for a moment, like, I don't know what the goal would be if we continue to explore and think about it. And that's usually the case with the conversations that we have in the working environment. So in a lot of cases, we don't really know what other people are trying to achieve. But sometimes we assume that we know it, or we look at this amorphous thing and we in our head form some interpretation. Okay, so this thing, because in a way the shape might remind of something relevant, and we're trying to work with this thing as a goal, because we make certain assumptions. We didn't really check them. We didn't deeply explore the goal that the other person is having, but we assume something. And from there, we're starting to help them, our client, to achieve this goal, although the goal was really this one. So it's important not to jump to conclusions, but rather go deeply and explore these things. And another important thing is that by doing this, we would be able, question by question, really help them to advance toward this goal. Because otherwise, if we don't know what the direction, our questions might be about anything. For example, you asked good questions, but they were not aligned with the goal that I had. For example, what kind of values, do you remember the exact question? I don't remember exactly what was it about.
Something like, what kind of values do you look for in co-workers or people that you would like to surround yourself in the work environment?
Yeah. So it's a good question, but as long as it not aligned with the goal that I have, I answered it honestly, but I had a feeling like, why do you ask that? I'm not sure whether it's relevant to what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't. I was thinking just that because good working relationships are based on some values, and if you would have similar values, you could meet on these values or make friendships upon these values, or even, for example, I would ask if there are some possibilities about team building to create better values or better relationships with the new coworkers or something like that.
Yeah. So this is.
I'm not sure if it's really relevant.
This is example of leading, because you have certain understanding of the situation, and you have certain understanding of the ways which can lead to this destination. And by asking questions, you're basically checking whether I'm taking this route or not. And in a way, you are directing me. So of course, even by asking open and great questions, you can be more directive, because it's you who are choosing the direction. And I'm saying this not as a criticism, but just to highlight the point that make the point that in this relation, you are choosing the direction for me.
Yeah, that's true. Sure.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So let's engage the audience. So the question for you: what is your biggest insight and idea at the moment? So what are you taking from this conversation right now? Let's check with everybody. And it becomes really windy out here. And if you don't have any new ideas, you can just write it that way as well. Stop assuming the situation and accepting advice in my head. Yeah, and maybe I made it sound simple, but sometimes it's very deep. And as a coach, you need to be really aware of what's happening, why I'm asking the question like this, and be constantly aware of what's happening, why I'm doing this. From Stella, importance of being open-minded and not think of a solution. Yeah.
Yes.
What else? Any other comments or ideas from anyone or questions? Katarzyna, maybe then question to you. So after this short discussion, what do you think you can do differently?
Well, probably the stuff that we talked about. Not try to lead as much. Try to define the goal or the initial idea more deeply and ask more questions about it, and therefore coach towards what the person would like to achieve or gain from that. And exactly as other people said, not assuming about the situations, and be more open-minded and not think about the solution and direct the solution.
Mm-hmm. So I want also to invite you to just think one specific action that you can do differently the next time you will have the coaching conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Just think about what based on this conversation, based on this little exercise, you can start doing differently starting from, let's say, tomorrow.
Oh well, tomorrow. Huh. Actually, I wanted to say to be very more prepared because I've never done this, so I was so nervous. But I don't know if I would have to do it tomorrow. Definitely be more open-minded and ask the questions and not direct. Just simple like this. Yeah.
And there's a question from chat to you, Katarzyna. How do you understand that you are not leading? Good question, Margot.
Would you understand that you are not leading? I'm not sure if I understand the question correctly, actually. Do you mean if I think that the coach should lead the person towards something, or that I was leading too much, or something else?
Well, I can try to guess to interpret that question. So I think the question is about how would you know that you are not directing me towards certain solutions, but rather helping me?
Next time. Oh, gotcha. Actually, to have proper coaching coaching practice and to know what type of questions should I ask, and step away from the solution and don't think about the solution, as people said, and just ask more questions towards the issue that the people come with.